right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest installment of Message from the Minista. This week's Message from the Minista, we're going to be asking the question, what is your trajectory? What is your trajectory? And realize that in the word your, Y-O-U-R, you take away the Y and we have R, O-U-R. What is our trajectory? For real, where are we headed? Where are we going? Both as individuals and collectively as hip hop. Got a lot of things to talk about this week. This is another one of those topics that can just be expanded upon and built upon. But the intention of each of these messages from the ministers is to get a dialogue going, to get a conversation going, whether that's with somebody else or just an internal conversation between you and God. What is your trajectory? How do you know where you are going? This has a lot to do when we talk about being hip to one's hop. What is your trajectory? Are you hip to your hop? Do you know why are you hip to your hop, your movement? Do you know why you move? Do we know why we move? Hip means to know. Hop is a form of movement. Are we hip to our hop? Are you hip to your hop? Let us begin. First of all, I want to thank y'all for being here and joining me in this time and space. As we say every week, time and space is just an illusion. It's part of the gift of the third dimension. The three dimensions being time, space, and patience. And check this out, when we get into the fourth and fifth dimensions, time, space, and patience, the three dimensions, they all exist in the fifth dimension too. There's just other dimensions and other angles to look at things, other ways to feel things into existence. I like to remind everybody that the so-called kingdom of heaven is actually in the fifth dimension, which is in the realm of mind and the realm of spirit. But before we get there, before we can get there as our ultimate aim, what am I aiming for? We got to ask ourselves in our lives, what is my trajectory in life? What is this trajectory? Where am I headed in life? And just you being here, just all of us being here in this room, since there is no such time and space, no matter where you are in the future or where you are on earth, and you're watching this video, we're all here together in spirit right now. And somehow our trajectories in life led us to this time and space right here, right now. And so let us come to a certain state of surrender to the wisdom of the universe for bringing us all here together right here, right now, in this time and this space. If you visualize yourselves here, I will begin speaking and will actually touch upon things that you are probably feeling in your life. Because since we are all here together in this time and space, there's actually a conversation going on in spirit that's happening right here, right now, even if this video is being watched in the future and in another place. See, so I started seeing more and more people visualizing themselves here in this room, and I start seeing you all start filling up the room. Some of you are sitting on the floor. Some of you are sitting on the couch over there. There's some chairs in the back. Some of you have brought yoga mats that you're sitting on. And I can start seeing you all here. And then let's recognize too that our ancestors are here, those helpful ancestors who are looking out for us, and the room begins to fill up even more and more in spirit. So thank you all for being here. It's my privilege and my honor to welcome you all here to Message from the Minister. And just want to thank everyone who's been tuning in to the Message from the Ministers every week. Those of you who are sharing and subscribing and just hitting me up either with a private message or hitting me up on the comments down below. I just want to thank you all who are tuning in and week out, because for me, that's the momentum. That's the aim of my personal trajectory, is to speak to my nobility, to speak to my people out there, to speak to hip-hoppers, my fellow hip-hoppers out there. If there's anything in this life that I could pass on to you, is that you are not alone in any of this. We are all here together in spirit. And realizing that you are never alone, you'll start to see that your outward vibrational frequency changes because you realize that we are all walking with God. We are all walking with this presence, this spirit that is greater than us, faster than us, stronger than us, more intelligent than us, and loves us and is looking out for our well-being. And no matter what situation we find ourselves in the world right now, whether that situation is peace or some form of chaos, realize that God has put you on that path, in that trajectory where you are right here, right now, for a reason. And that no matter how you may be feeling, no matter what you may be seeing going on outside of you, that God has a reason and purpose for you being right where you are, right here and right now. And realize that upon your path, you are not stagnant. You're not just staying in one place. Life is ever growing. Life is ever moving. Life is ever flowing. And that you are actually arriving somewhere. You are on the trajectory course to a place where you will arrive in the future and go on another course and another path and another way from there for infinity. The way that the universe flows, the way that God works and God flows, life is eternal. Eternal life, they call it. Life is eternal. And those of us who are conscious that we live beyond this body, we need to start projecting ourselves and start seeing what is the trajectory where we are going after we leave this world, and what in case and condition are we going to be? How are we going to leave the physical body? How are we going to leave our family? What is our mental state? What is our spiritual state going to be when we leave this body? That's the deepest part of this discussion. But this discussion is also talking about what is my day-to-day routine, and how does that also affect where I'm going with my body? What is the trajectory of my physical? What is the trajectory of my mental? What is the trajectory of my spiritual? Where am I going? And how do I hit the mark? How do I hit the target? You know, as I was growing up, I would talk to a lot of different metaphysicians or, philosophers, and these type people used to always be attracted to me in my life, or I'd be attracted to them. We come together at these certain impasses in life, and inevitably in most of those discussions, the story, the teachings of Jesus Christ would get brought into this, brought into the discussion, no matter what it was. And I was thinking while I was preparing for this message from the Minista, I remember somebody saying that, Jesus didn't really hit his mark or he wouldn't have died on the cross. And I was thinking about that real deep while I was preparing for this, because I don't believe that. I never did believe that. I believe that Jesus was like the ultimate archer, and he hit his target so much that he landed on the cross. He landed in the crosshairs. He hit the target bullseye. Because what Jesus did was he showed humanity that no matter where you're born, or what system you're born under, what system of governance, what system of religion you are born under, that government and that religion, they don't define who you are as an individual. They don't get it to define who you are. You define who you are. Jesus defined who he was. He didn't allow the Pharisees or the governors or anybody else around him to define who he was. He defined who he was by the guidance of his heavenly Father, God. And he also taught that we all have that opportunity. What a gift, what a vision, what a sight. I just want to say that to my nobility, like between you and God, what is your trajectory in life? Where are you headed in life? Are you hip to your hop? Do you know why you moved? Do you know where you are going? Do we know where we are going? What is our trajectory? So as we get started in this conversation, I want to use the notes that I've taken, and I'm going to actually read the definitions of two words from the American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition, just so we have a basic understanding of what we mean by trajectory. And also, trajectory also means to transmit. So we're gonna read the definition of trajectory, and transmit. And then we'll start defining what it means and how do we arrive somewhere where we are meant to go, and what is the thought process of that, what's going on in that thought process, what physical actions can we take. And we'll also be reading from the 6 Overstanding in the Gospel of Hip Hop. The Seasons, have some passages, some paragraphs outlined in the 6 Overstanding, the Seasons, as well as we're going to be reading about physics and metaphysics according to Ernest Holmes in his book, his groundbreaking book, The Science of Mind. So buckle your seatbelts, my nobility. We about to go on a ride. I'm so glad to see y'all here, and let's get started. Oh, yeah, and big up, I wanted to take a moment to thank God One at One God Streetwear for the fresh shirt. This shirt is dope. I'm feeling it, my brother. And I want to shout out Queen Harriet at Power of the Trinity. And I'll put their websites linked below for this beautiful orgonite piece. Big up Queen Harriet for this beautiful orgone piece. This is orgonite. I spoke about this last week. This orgonite piece is putting off a shield around me and protecting my physical body from the frequencies coming from the telephone, from the cell phone, from the cell towers outside, and from the router and the computer, and just from all these electromagnetic, synthetic electromagnetic frequencies that are hitting our body all the time. This orgone actually acts as a shield. It helps protect the body, and this streetwear is This streetwear is fresh. So big up to y'all for the gear. I appreciate it. I wanted to rock it and shout y'all out, and put the links to their products down below. You can visit the websites and see what they got for sale there. Also, a major announcement: in the next week or two, I'll be sharing our website, treeoflifetech.com. It's a new business that my business partner and I started, and he's the founder of the company, and he's come up with this amazing patented invention called the Tree of Life Tech. We have arc stars, firestones, and we're going to have what's called the gem light therapy rack. But that's all in the future. Just wanted to put that seed out there, get that out there. My nobility who knows me knows about this technology, this amazing technology. So I just want to let you all know that, we as hip hoppers, we need to be living what we teach. And at the Temple of Hip Hop, the 9th element itself is street entrepreneurialism. And so these businesses, these businesses that people start from their homes, that artists start from their homes, that entrepreneurs start from their homes, that jewelry makers, clothing designers, and even down to the gem light therapy rack. I see one sitting across the room over there. That's why I keep pointing over there. I'll put a picture of it up here. This is street entrepreneurialism. And street entrepreneurialism isn't just about selling CDs out the boot of your car. Although that is dope, do it. Sell CDs out the boot of your car. Street entrepreneurialism is about creating our own products that are in need. Like orgone, it's got this great, people need orgone right now. They need orgonite right now. They need orgone energy right now because of all of these frequencies that are hitting our water bodies. Just like people need knowledge, so we sell the gospel of hip hop because people are in need of knowledge. That's a product of street entrepreneurialism. It's also a profound work. All of these works are profound. This shirt by Godzilla, by God One, he made this shirt with me in mind, and I could just feel that when I look at this shirt. I'll turn around, you can see the back, you can see what we're rocking here. This shirt just vibrates at a certain frequency that I'm at in my life right here and right now. And all of this was mailed. It was mailed to me. And when it was mailed, it was sent on a trajectory, and it arrived in my time and space from another time and space. You see how this works? You see how the universe is flowing? Is your mind starting to grow? Are you starting to maybe see a little bit more of what's going on around you on the daily. Let's get to the definition of traject and trajectory. I will pop them up on the screen right here, and this will just give us something to focus on while we're talking about what is your trajectory. All right, traject, verb, to transmit, and that's why we're going to go over the definition of transmit in a moment, because it says right here, traject, to transmit, and to throw across, to throw, see trajection. And then trajectory. What's your trajectory? Trajectory. The path of a projectile or other moving body through space. The path of a projectile or other moving body through space. That could be a frisbee. That can be a baseball. That can be an arrow. That can be a car. That can be your body. That can be a fist. That can be a word. The path of a projectile or other moving body through space. Definition 1b, a chosen course or a course taken. A chosen course or a course taken. A course could be like you map out your course on a map and you drive through those certain streets, those certain interstates to arrive at your mark, at your location, at your target. And a course can also be a course that we take to study a certain subject. So we can be better acquainted, and our trajectory there, our mark there, our goal there, our target there would be knowledge. So that's another kind of course, like a college course or a school course. Definition 1b, a chosen course or a course taken. A moral trajectory, a style of aspiration. Definition number 2. Now this can go in so many ways, and this is profound right here, because in mathematics, a curve that cuts all of a given family of curves or surfaces at the same angle. Wow, that trajectory, that's here, 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 straight line curve. That's a trajectory of any given angle from here to that camera right there. I have a straight line. I have a curved angle. I have another curved angle. I can have a trajectory that slides there. And all of these can be mapped out geometrically on a two-dimensional plane, like on a piece of paper on a computer screen as well. And that's the new Latin trajectoria, which is feminine of the trajectorius from the Latin tractius, which is the past participle of tracear, which is to throw across. Man, they took a long time to get there. To throw across. Yo, that's deep when you think about it, because a lot of sports, all the major sports in the United States and elsewhere in the world, like baseball, you know, there's a trajectory when you throw a baseball. There's a trajectory when the batter hits the baseball. A trajectory when the fielder is coming under to catch something, to catch the baseball. And I was thinking about a master of trajectory in our lifetime in baseball was Greg Maddux, the great pitcher, the Hall of Fame pitcher from the Atlanta Braves and the Chicago Cubs before that. He was a master of his craft. Not a lot of people actually talk about the greatness of the greatest baseball pitcher of our era in Greg Maddux in that way. He had a way of throwing a baseball. He knew every trajectory that ball could go. And so he was a master of placing that ball where the batter couldn't hit it, where the batter would swing. And it was just, he was so masterful at it because he didn't have a lot of arm power like Randy Johnson or even Nolan Ryan. He didn't have that 100-mile-per-hour fastball that these other pitchers had. So what he had to rely upon was his mind and his physical conditioning, of course. He was a professional athlete, but he had to know how that ball was, where it was going to throw and how it was going to arc to hit his mark. You know, in the modern age, we have Steph Curry from the Golden State Warriors. He's another master of trajectory. He can shoot that ball from pretty much anywhere on the court, shoot the ball, and its trajectory is to go inside the hoop. He can make a shot from there. And, you know, he's great from the three-point, he's great from the two-point, and he's great from the free throw line, too, because he knows the trajectory of the basketball better than anyone in the history of the NBA, he can hit the mark better and more proficiently than anyone in the history of the NBA. And this is fun too, because earlier today, each week we talk about this. Our trajectory, let's say, of the physical body. What is the trajectory of the physical body? Are you keeping yourself in shape? And just as an example of that, earlier today, I went out with a good friend of mine, and we went what's called frisbee golfing. And this is how this conversation came about a couple weeks ago, thinking about, what would the message from the minister be this week? And we talked about trajectory and how when you throw a frisbee, there are these little discs. Actually got one over here. There are these little discs like this size, and you're on a course like a golf course, but you got to throw the frisbee, and sometimes it hooks this way, sometimes it hooks that way, sometimes you want to get it straight, sometimes you got to throw it far, sometimes you got to throw it low, sometimes you got to throw it high, throw it around trees. There's all these different trajectories. They hit the target, they hit the basket, they hit the mark. And some of the things that we realize from that is that, the mark that you want to hit isn't just one shot or one aim or only going to happen one time. In basketball, it's like whatever team hits that mark or hits the trajectory the most, who scores the most points. In frisbee golf, it's whoever hits that mark or that target, or even in golf, the most proficiently, who can do it in the least amount of shots. But there's never just like every once in a while you get an ace run or somebody who can just hit the mark on one throw. But they're not designed for that. They're designed for 2, 3, sometimes 4, or even up to 5 throws, where you've got to take this frisbee and launch it so it lands somewhere where you're closer to the target. And then you go up there, you reset, you pick yourself back up, you pick up another frisbee, you get another disc, and you take that part where you are right there and you throw it again to hit the next mark or hit closer to the target that you want to get to. And the lesson there being that, in life, it's not just like we go out and we give it our all and there's one mark to hit or the target to hit. We can see the target clearly and we're going to hit the target. Sometimes we don't even see the target in life, but we know where the target is. We know what we're aiming towards, and we go boom, and we go forward and we stop and we reset ourselves and we get ready and we traject ourselves again into the future. Then we stop and we reset ourselves. This is a day-to-day operation, and talking to hip-hoppers too, be mindful of what you listen to or what you allow to take seed or root in your mind when listening to rap music. And I say this because I've always, I was a big fan of this song. I've always, really like Eminem's greatest song. You only get one shot, so do not, miss your chance. You only get that one shot to make it in life. And I get that because sometimes, like certain championships, like maybe a certain player only has that one shot, to win the game at the end of the game, but they don't win the game. But that's just a game. As an MC, if you're out there and you got that seed planted in you that you only got one shot to make it, I would just suggest that, if you think you've missed your shot in life, that you reset yourself and look at your trajectory and get closer to the mark by throwing yourself into the future again, no matter how old you are. I've met MCs along the path who start giving up in their 30s because they haven't made it. They haven't hit this illusionary thing called making it, because there's no definition of what it means to make it. And the odds are stacked, and most real MCs, they're stacked against us in that the mainstream doesn't really allow the real conscious music of the streets to go cross over onto the radio. So if that's the only target is to get on the radio, then, what is your real aim? What is your real mark as an MC, as a hip-hopper? Was it to be on the radio, or was it to teach, uplift, and inspire your people? Reset yourself, reset your trajectory, reset your mark. Look, you got closer, you got better at rhyming, didn't you? You don't just get one shot at making it, and then if you don't, you didn't make it, and you're some kind of a failure? No way. As an MC, hip-hop culture is eternal. You could be 65 years old, 60 years old, and pick your career up wherever you dropped it off and start working on your rhymes again, start putting your album together and go out there and re-aim where you want to go. Because are you an ambassador for the culture, or are you just trying to get famous, trying to be a famous quote-unquote rapper? The world doesn't need more rappers. The world needs more MCs. You feel me? So this is for you younger guys too. Don't get trapped in that like, oh, I got to make it by the time I'm 25. Ask yourself, what does make it mean? Is that the mark to make it? Is that your mark to quote unquote this ambiguous term that just slides through your hands like water called making it? Oh, I'm going to make it. Well, what are you going to make? Well, I see myself as a cultural ambassador. I see myself as spitting knowledge and history and wisdom. I see myself as, speaking the Spirit, speaking about God. I see myself inspiring my community as an MC. Now that's a target worthy of your time and your effort. Speaking of which, let's bring up the definition of the word transmit, because an MC transmits the spoken word through the power of sound vibration. Transmit, because remember, first of all, and the reason we're looking at transmit is because traject, which is the root word of trajectory, means to transmit. So we're going to look at the word transmit as it applies to trajectory. And tonight's lesson is what is your trajectory? Definition number 1 of transmit: to send from one person, thing, or place to another, to convey. A synonym is send, to send. Look at that, to send from one person, thing, or place to another, to convey. I'm transmitting the word transmit to you. From me, one person, this thing, this piece of paper that I'm reading, this thing, this camera, to another place, or to another person, you, wherever you are. I'm sending it. We're sending it. We're sending this word across. Transmit, definition number 2. To cause, to spread, pass on, transmit. Definition number 3. To impart or convey to others by hereditary or inheritance, hand down. Now that's really interesting there, to transmit. Our genes, our DNA is transmitted to us from our parents and our environment. So our environment and our parents are imparting or conveying to us by hereditary. And then inheritance, to hand down. Those of you in the future, we are transmitting the gospel of hip-hop to your hands from the future, to hand you down the gospel of hip-hop. And the gospel of hip-hop and the hip-hop declaration of peace and the Stop the Violence movement and so on and so forth, that is your inheritance. It's being transmitted to you. Our trajectory of the gospel of hip-hop is you, which is the target, which is the mark. Transmit, definition number 4, to pass along news or information, to communicate. See, I'm transmitting this message from the minister to you. Definition number 5A, as it applies to electronics, to send a signal as by wire or radio. The microphone I'm speaking through is transmitting my voice through a wire into a recording device, and then that recording device is now playing it for you to hear. In physics, definition 5B in physics, and this is brilliant here: to cause a disturbance to propagate through a medium. So to transmit, physics, to cause a disturbance to propagate through a medium. Check this out, because this can mean so many things. A medium can be somebody who's transmitting a spiritual knowledge from God to another human. That's the physics of it. But another part of physics too to look at is if you throw a rock in a puddle of water, in a pool of water, it's transmitting its frequency, it's causing a disturbance on the still water, and it's propagating through the water, a medium. It's a wave that is going through that water. That's what words do when they hit our body. Look at Dr. Emoto's work on that, the physics to cause a disturbance to propagate through a medium. And I wouldn't even say it's always a disturbance. It could be a transformation as well. Because to transmit into somebody's water body, into their psychic abilities, a good idea or a good teaching or something that can help them, that's the physics of the universe. That's the physics of God. Transmit, definition number 6. To convey a force or energy from one part of a mechanism to another, to send out a signal. That would be like a wire, like electricity is conveyed. It's a force or energy from one part of a mechanism to another, from the light switch to the light. And then the light transmits that energy from the light to your eyes. It doesn't actually, it's like a wave, like that light is a wave. Start seeing light as a wave. Don't see it as it's going from point A to point B. It's a wave that is arriving at us. That light wave is arriving at us, and it's arriving all over the room or wherever we are at. It's not just a one beam. It's this force, this wave, this multidimensional wave. And the light of our body is meeting that wave. And when the light of our body meets that wave, we can see. And we're not just talking about light when it comes to electricity. We're also talking about spiritual light and the way that spiritual light is transmitted. To send out a signal, from Latin transmittere, which means to send. So transmit is to send. So when we're talking about trajectory, we're talking about transmitting a force of energy through us, through our body, through our mind, through our word, through our physical actions, through our spirit, transmitting an energy that's going to go on a certain course of action and is going to arrive somewhere. That's really deep when you think about it. You're a trajectory of God. You're a trajectory of your thoughts. We are trajectories of our environment. We are trajectories of our parent. We are trajectories of who and what we think in life. So our mind, the trajectory of our mind, how we visualize what we think and what we see is very important to who we become and important to our physical health. You could see the trajectory of where your body is going if you just look at your environment. A lot of us have other people as examples. People who smoke too many cigarettes in their life, and you can see the trajectory of what that brought them. They smoked too many Marlboros or Camels in their life, and you can see the trajectory of what that did to their lungs. You can see what it did to their skin and to their overall health. You can see the trajectory of somebody who ate too much fast food in their life or always ate the junk food and always ate what they were craving and developed diabetes or developed dementia or Alzheimer's, and you can see the trajectory of that person in your environment too. You may even be feeling the effects of your own trajectory when it comes to physical health. There's really no excuse either. We all know this. This isn't some kind of, most people wouldn't be surprised if they had lung cancer, if they smoked Marlboros their whole life. They wouldn't be surprised that they developed lung cancer. Most people wouldn't be surprised that they had some kind of ulcer or stomach problem if they ate too much greasy and fried food from fast food joints or had high blood pressure. They wouldn't be too surprised to find that out. Most people aren't too surprised to find out that, that they ain't feeling good and that they're feeling lethargic because all they do is sit around staring at computers all day, or all they do is sit around watching television all day, or they sit around just sitting at a desk typing all day, or just sitting around not really doing anything all day, and their back gets hurt and their body gains too much weight and they just feel lethargic. Most people aren't surprised at the trajectory of what that means. And I'm speaking to the young people and to my older nobility out there as well, but young people, really look at the older people around you. I talk a lot about the martial arts. I trained and studied a lot of martial arts when I was younger, and I still do to a certain degree. I'm always learning and always training. But when I was in karate, Uichi-Ru Karate Do, Okinawan Karate, when I was between the ages of 12 and 16, like 4 years, we would go hard, we would block hard, we would hit hard, we would hit wood, we would break boards, we would kick each other, we would get our bones kicked, I'd come home bruised up and beaten up and everything. And I was a young kid, so, I bounced back really quickly. But, and I'm not dissing nobody. If you're a lifelong martial artist, though, I have the highest respect for you teaching people how to defend themselves. It is one of the greatest callings in life, teaching people confidence in how to defend themselves. But I started noticing, at least in that style of karate that I took, I noticed that, the older dudes, the dudes in their 40s, late 40s and 50s, and even 60s, they'd be in the room putting on their gi, and they'd be like, oh man, my wrist still hurts from last week, and oh, my sore back. And they were tough dudes, but they were always walking around, hobbling around and working on stiff backs and stiff foots and things like that. And I remember as a young man thinking like, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to be sore by the time I'm 38. It's the reason I quit landscaping too. I saw the trajectory that my physical body was going based on the work that I was doing and those habits that I was forming and those things I was doing in life. I said, I don't want my body to be all stiff and out of shape and beat up by the time I'm 35, 40, 50 years old. And I'm glad that I heeded that advice as a younger man. I'm glad I took those things. I'm glad I had those experiences. But as I've gotten older and my body's loose and fluid and it's not full of aches and pains, and I'm aging like everybody else. Well, no, I'm not. I'm aging a lot different than most people my age. But I'm just saying like my body's getting older, but I always feel better than I did when I was younger. I feel more fluid. I feel more energetic. I have more testosterone. I feel more alive. I feel stronger than I've ever felt before in my life. Now, the body's going to age, but, Deepak Chopra, ageless body, timeless mind, these things go hand in hand. The mind can become that fountain of youth for anybody and start putting it to good use. Drink your water, take those vitamins, take those multivitamins, eat those healthy meals, make those healthy choices in your life so the trajectory of your physical body, when you arrive at the age that you're going to, that you're moving through time and space already, when you arrive at your 50-year-old self, 60-year-old self, 70-year-old self, the trajectory of your physical body, that those decisions and choices you're making right now at 15, 19, 20, 27, 32, 33, 38, 42, 44, 47, 48, 52, 56, 58, 59, 60, so on and so forth. That trajectory of those ages, you're going to thank yourself as you get older and you feel younger. I'm speaking from experience and wisdom here. It really works. And mental health is the same way. We go from the body, let's talk about the mind too. What's the mental trajectory? Because to get where you want to go mentally, your body's going to have to be able to keep up. Like we were talking about earlier, if you're an MC, I've seen it happen time and time again where somebody's mind was ready and they're like, I see myself as an MC. And then they get to the show and they do a couple of shows and they're on tour with the teacher, and then they get sick and then they got to go home because their body wasn't ready, their discipline wasn't ready for what the mind could see. The mind created this circumstance for them to live their purpose and become an MC, and then they had to go home because they didn't have the discipline of the body. Their body wasn't up to snuff. So this is a holistic approach to the trajectory of life itself. And what trajectory, what course, what path are any of us on? The mental health is the same way. What are you watching? What are we listening to? And not that we're not going to be informed, or not that we're not going to be entertained at times, but how often are we sitting in front of Netflix day in and day out, night in and night out, hour after hour after hour after hour, even in front of the internet, and getting hit with that blue light. And if you are getting hit with blue light, get yourself an app that gives you red light on your phone or on your computer or on your device. I'll put the link down below to one. I forget the name of it, but it's a free service, and it's on the internet. I'll put a picture of it up here. I'm forgetting the name of it, but you download this free app on your phone or your computer, and it will cut the blue light out, and you'll get the more warm red light that's in synchronicity with the Schumann frequency and the colors of the night and the day. It helps your mind and brain not get taught. There's all kinds of studies that at night when we're soaking in all this blue light from the computer screen or from the phone screen, that it's not good for our circadian rhythm, for our mind and our general health. So if you are watching the screen or you find yourself watching the screen, download this free app and it's going to help you. You probably won't watch as much and stare at the computer as much, and you'll actually get a better night's sleep. That's on the side. But this trajectory of the mind, what is the mind doing? Where is the mind going? You know, what does your meditation look like? What does your creative visualization look like? What are the thoughts that are coming into your mind, and which thoughts are you attaching yourself to? What thoughts are we attaching ourselves to collectively? You know, what are we thinking about ourselves on a daily basis? That's going to be the trajectory that we're going. Going back to epigenetics, that's the same thing. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he was talking, I was listening to this week. I didn't write it down, but the basics of it is that, you know, when we're by the time we're 7, they say for about the past 500 years, people have been able to tell, certain doctors, certain psychiatrists and certain thinkers and philosophers can look at a 7-year-old and know where that 7-year-old's trajectory is going to be as an adult. Because 95% of who we are as adults, we picked up when we were kids. Now, we had all these things in our environment to pick up from, but those certain things that we picked up on, those set and create our trajectory where we're going in life. We're in a theta state. When we're up to about 7 years old, we're in a brainwave state called theta state, which is like a meditative dream state. And in that meditative dream state, we believe that we're on the top of a frosty mountain when it's the middle of the summer and we're standing on top of a rock. You know, or we believe that we're in the trenches fighting warfare when we just got a stick in our hands, or we believe that that stick is a sword. You know, I was a little boy, so I thought everything was a weapon. I grew up on G.I. Joe and Transformers and all that. So, you know, I was raised in that military way, and I loved martial arts and kung fu and stuff like that. So I always try to make everything a weapon, you know. But that's what my mind picked up on when I was younger. And, you know, from 7 years old, I thought kung fu looked great, so I took karate classes, studied the martial arts, so on and so forth. Those things that we're attracted to when we're younger, and those things in our environment create who we become in the future. And it's really hard to override for a lot of folks. This is where like hypnotism and theta work and meditation and positive affirmation and, you know, getting into that theta state at night, you know, putting on the headphones and listening to positive affirmations as we go into theta before we go to sleep. Because that starts changing the trajectory of our mind and how we think. You know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That classic book, it talks about that, you know, that most people, like if you're born rich, you're going to stay rich. Even if you try to be poor, you're going to stay rich because you think rich, because you've been around rich when you were 7 years old, 6 years old, and from the time you're born. So that theta state is picking up on it and just knows what it means to feel like being rich. And so those who are rich, they attract wealth to them. They attract, I should say, richness to them, because of what they're at. Another example of that is those who are poor. Very rarely do whole families and generations go from being poor to being rich because they think poor, you know. And so when we're poor and we think poverty, it perpetuates itself, especially when we're around extreme poverty. And it's not fair. It is designed this way because the government knows these metaphysics. Those in charge, you know, those in charge of politicians and those in charge of Google and those in charge of Facebook and those in charge of, you know, Amazon and those in charge of Netflix and the movies and those in charge of NBC and CBS, they know these metaphysics. They know that if they can keep programming the subconscious mind of people, the people are going to stay and go where they are told to stay and where they are told to go. And that's why the government is never going to fix poverty for any group of people. It's that group of people who has to change their mind. And actually, the changing of the mind for those stuck in poverty is not to want what these rich people want, but to want true wealth, the true wealth that comes from God. And that's why they spend so much money denying humanity's mind of God. Because once humanity's mind wakes up to God, we wake up to the infinite possibilities of God. And then we realize that riches are nothing without wealth. And what is true wealth? True wealth is relationships. True wealth is harmony. True wealth is safety. True wealth is community. True wealth is knowledge. True wealth is wisdom. True wealth is of God. True wealth is freedom. Where is the mind state? This is why, what are we studying? What are we reading? This is why it's so important for us to go back in time and read about other religions and read about other cultures and read about other histories. You can either go and become that, or you can read about it and see what their trajectory was and how they arrived at the promised land, or how they didn't arrive where they were supposed to go, and how they did arrive and create the success that they wanted to create, or how they failed and didn't create, and we can learn from history. You know, they say, you know, those who are ignorant of their history are doomed. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. They say that. So this is where, you know, reading about historical events and historical figures and religious events and religious figures and reading about things like that, that form of study helps us to know our trajectory. Because we say, oh, they did it this way, they threw it this way, they went this way, and they missed the mark. Remember, to sin one's selfish, inconsiderate needs, big up G. Simone, the acrinologist, sin, S-I-N, selfish, inconsiderate needs. Remember, the definition of sin is just miss the mark. That's why they say Jesus was sinless, because he hit the mark, he hit the target, he hit the crosshairs. He literally landed like an arrow on the mark, on the target. So to sin means just to miss the mark. And that's all it means. You know, got to get rid of this Roman Catholicism, this way that, oh, I'm a sinner, I'm not worthy to hit the mark. No, you're worthy to hit the mark in your life. You're worthy to hit the target in your life. You're worthy to know what the trajectory is and where you're going in life. This begins with mastering one's mind. We'll get into spirituality when we close, because we're talking about body, mind, and spirit. We don't want to dwell too long on the body, but when we're talking about diet and exercise and keeping one's physical movement fluid and getting younger as you age, those type of things, that's the physical body. And that's, you know, anyone can study that, because we can look at the trajectory of others and what they did physically and where they ended up, and we can base ourselves on that. That person ended up with diabetes, therefore I'm not going to eat like that person. That person ended up, you know, with hip problems, therefore I'm not going to exercise like that person with hip problems. That person ended up, you know, with certain forms of stomach disease. Therefore, I'm not going to eat like that person. You know, we can look at the trajectory of others and base that on ours, and there's a wealth of knowledge, and we can look at our own trajectory physically too. So, you know, we talk about the physical. What's your physical trajectory? Then we just talked about the mental trajectory, and we're still talking about that. Where's the mind going? What is the mind thinking of? What is it about the mind that is so important that our thoughts create things and we become who we think of constantly? And our mind, you know, when we're 7 years old, is in the state of theta, and then we pick up on certain things in our environment, and that creates our trajectory of where we're going. And as we're adults, our minds make certain decisions. We pick up certain books. We go certain places. We talk to certain people. We watch certain videos. We do certain things, and that creates the trajectory of our mind. We believe certain ideas, and that creates the trajectory of our mind. And how many people believe in a lie, and then the trajectory of their mind sends them right to where that lie was, which is nothing, which is emptiness, which doesn't exist, because a lie in and of itself, by its very nature, a lie doesn't exist. So somebody whose trajectory is based on a lie doesn't even exist. Don't believe the mainstream lie. Don't believe what the media says. They are liars. They are professionally trained liars. Let's get into the mind a little bit deeper with The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. This isn't a long passage. I'm going to put it up here. And, you know, this is going to talk about these three things, you know, the physical trajectory, the mental trajectory, and I would throw, with the mental trajectory, throwing the emotional trajectory in there as well. You know, people let their emotions control where they're going and trajectory, or somebody might be on a course of action and then their emotions pop up and it throws them off a course. off course. Of course, it throws them off course. Those emotions can throw anyone off course. Use your emotions to your advantage. Don't allow your emotions to use you to their advantage. But we're going to go from, we're talking about the physical, the mental trajectory, and then the spiritual trajectory. And this passage here, Metaphysics and Physics in the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, this really takes us on that journey here. It's only a couple pages here, a few paragraphs, but the Metaphysics and Physics from the Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. The laws of mind or spirit are not different from the laws of chemistry and physics. Metaphysics begins where physics leaves off. Everything is movement. Everything we can take hold of and analyze. All things in the physical world or the world of form are in a certain rate of vibration and are an effect. This is the result of an infinite thinker thinking mathematically. Remember, we talked about that in transmit and also trajectory, the mathematics of trajectory. See how this says right here? He says certain rate of vibration, the world of form, everything. This book that I'm holding has a certain rate of vibration. The molecules of this book are at a certain rate of vibration that appear to my mind to be a book with words on them. The ink is vibrating at a certain vibration while it's sitting on this page that is a different vibration. And the page is vibrating at the vibration of what we call a page. And the ink is vibrating at a certain vibration that we call words that are typed. And those words are a certain vibration that create a thought pattern in our mind as we hear them. It's all vibration. Let's go to the second paragraph here. To reduce this proposition to the practical life of the individual, our belief is that anything the mind thinks, it can unthink. If, therefore, by the law of cause and effect, we have produced unpleasant conditions, we should be able, by this same law, to produce an entirely different effect. Let's pause there for a moment. What he's saying here is that if our outer environment, we're not pleased, or we're not at home, or we look at our outer environment, or we look at our life circumstances, and we go, wow, I thought myself into a vibrational frequency that matched this outer circumstance I'm finding myself in. I've thought myself into this. That means I can unthink myself out of this. I can think a new thought. I can think a new way and vibrate and attract and manifest in life something different, a better condition than this. And this is really powerful when we get into what the media is doing and manipulating us and manipulating our people to be. This is why hip-hop, this is why we're speaking to hip-hoppers. This is why this message from the minister is directed towards the hip-hopper, because we've been thinking some things that we need to unthink collectively. We're talking about the mind here. We need to rethink. We need to relearn the ways of God and unlearn the ways of the world. We need to rethink our condition and unthink the conditions that have been placed on us by the so-called authorities, the so-called governors, the so-called media, the so-called corporations, the so-called military, the so-called police. We can unthink what they've taught us and how they've caused our people to behave. We can rethink ourselves and project ourselves and have a trajectory for ourselves to where we see ourselves in the future. If we see ourselves as organized, and we rethink and we match the vibrational frequency of ourselves as organized, we will arrive at being organized as the people. If we can rethink what a city means for our people, we can rethink what our conditions are, we can think ourselves literally and feel ourselves literally into the vibrational frequency that is hip-hopia. Hip-hopia already exists in the fifth dimension. We just match our spiritual, our mental, and our physical vibrational frequency to match that of hip-hopia, and hip-hopia will begin to appear all around us. This is metaphysics, but it is the physics of metaphysics. Let's continue. Another principle which is fundamental to our practice is that not only what is set in motion can be changed, but that the truth known is demonstrated. The knowledge of truth and its demonstration is both simultaneous and instantaneous. Since we are dealing with that which is limitless, knowing no big and no little, the possibility of our demonstration rests not in the principle, but in our acknowledgement of and embodiment in it of the ideas we desire experienced. The saying of peace will not produce peace unless back of the word is a realization of the meaning of peace. So in the simplicity of our own language, we try to convince ourselves of the reality of that for which we are treating, knowing that in such a degree as we have an embodiment of the idea, it is thrown into a mechanical field and must operate. Okay, so what he's saying there, what Ernest Holmes is saying there, is that what's fundamental to our practice is that there is no big and there is no little. I say this year after year after year, that there's really no difference for manifesting Hippopia, as big as it sounds to build our own city, as Hippopas, as big of an idea as it is. It's no different than producing a book, the Gospel of Hip Hop. It's the same metaphysics, it's the same physics, it's the same work, it's the same belief, it's the same spoken word, it's the same vibrational frequency. So to create a book called the Gospel of Hip Hop is no different than creating Hippopia. To create an orgone necklace is no different than creating a city. To create a t-shirt is no different than creating a city. To create whatever or wherever you live is no bigger or no little. So to create the life you want is no different than creating the life you don't want. It's the same energy, and actually creating the life that we do want, creating the life that we do see for ourselves actually takes less energy because there's less resistance from ourselves. We get out of our own way at that moment. And also, do we know this is where definitions come in? This is why every week we go over the definition of what we're talking about, so we have a focal point. So if we say the word peace, we can say peace, peace, peace all day and not experience peace unless we match the vibrational frequency, unless we actually know what peace is. So how do we know what Hippopia is if we haven't experienced Hippopia? Well, the truth is you probably have experienced Hippopia multiple times in your life. It's called the kingdom of heaven. It's called being in the flow. It's called having your mojo. It's called things just magically working out the way that you hope that they would, or things just seem to happen for your betterment. That's Hippopia. That's the state of Hippopia. That's the vibrational frequency that we want. And the more that we get in that frequency, the more that we match that frequency that's coming from another dimension, that's coming from the realm of spirit. Once we match that frequency, it just begins taking shape in our outer environment, because this is all vibrational frequency. There's nothing solid. Everything is molecules bouncing around and vibrating at a certain frequency. So what are we aiming for? What is our aim? What is our trajectory? What are we trying to hit? Where are we trying to go collectively? Are we hip to our hop? Do we know why we're going there? Do we even know where we are going? Let us continue. Spirit is the power that knows itself. Let's say that quote again. Spirit is the power that knows itself. Whatever that power within us is, that knows itself, constitutes the part of us which is spirit or spiritual. To be self-conscious is to be a spiritual entity. Mind, in its self-conscious form, cannot be differentiated from spirit. You see what he's saying here? You see what he's saying here? Mind, in its self-conscious form, cannot be differentiated from spirit. Mind, in its subjective or subconscious state, is the law of spirit. Man is a spirit while God is the spirit. Read that again. Man is a spirit while God is the spirit. Man is an individual while God is the universal. But since the individual comes from and is in the universal, it follows that man is a little world within himself. This is what Jesus meant when he said that man has inherent life within himself. The meaning of inherent life is real life, creative life. What is the trajectory of your life? What is the trajectory of your life? No limit can be placed upon the spirit of man. It merges with the universal spirit, for the two are really one. God is in us as we are in God. God is in us as we are in God. The same essence, the degree apparently different. The one finite and the other infinite. And since the infinite cannot come from the finite, it follows that the finite must come from the infinite. A little circle within the big circle. Metaphysically, we recognize the universal spirit as the source of all life and inspiration, an infinite self-knowingness, which we grasp only in part, but which is ever available. Since the infinite is omnipresent, the mind of man is an extension of the eternal mind of spirit. I'm going to read that again. The mind of man is an extension of the eternal mind or spirit, and his evolution is the unfolding of this everlasting mind or spirit through his thought. Through his thought. We are made and unmade by our thinking, both individually and collectively. We are in God as God is in us. We are infinite because we are finite. The finite had to come from the infinite. We came from the infinite to experience the so-called finite, but we are infinite in our being. Rise up, my nobility. You are infinite in your being. Your being is infinite. Your spirit is infinite. What is our trajectory? What is your trajectory as an infinite being? What's your mind focused on? What you looking at? What do you believe? What do you feel? We talk about the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, but it's all the same thing. It really is. This energy that's moving this body, what is it? The energy that moves you, what is it? Where does it come from? How does it even move you? And where is it moving you towards? Where's God moving you towards? Are you overriding God's trajectory for you and ending up where God doesn't want you? Well, God must have wanted you there, or you wouldn't have been hearing this message from the minister right now to get you back on course to, pick yourself up and throw yourself to your trajectory, throw yourself to your goal, to your purpose, to your target, to your mark. And there is a burden that comes with that blessing. Remember, a burden becomes a blessing. At first, it's like a spiritual weight, and we carry this burden, and like, oh, this is my purpose, and it's a burden. This is who I am, and it's a burden. But we keep carrying it. We keep picking it up. We keep picking it up, and we get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then it's no longer a burden. We can carry that weight, toss it around, move it around. It becomes a blessing at that moment. Steph Curry is an example. When he was little, just to pick up a basketball was a burden. But he saw his dad doing it. He saw, the other players around him. He grew up, his dad played in the NBA, and so he grew up and he was a little guy, and you can see photos of him. He's just a little guy grabbing a basketball, just picking it up with two hands, and it's heavy, and it's a burden at that time, but he wants to get it in that basket up there. But as he grows older, he's picking up that basketball, and the new muscles develop, and all of a sudden, it's no longer a burden. It becomes his blessing in life. Same for you. Same for us. Same for any of us when it comes to purpose. Just keep picking up that weight, keep picking up that weight, and as we grow, it's no longer a burden, it becomes a blessing. That's a trajectory in and of itself, to pick up the weight, to gain the muscle, to make it into a blessing. So hypopia can seem like a burden to a lot of us right now because it's a weight and we're carrying it. But as we carry it each and every year, we get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we see it in our environment, and it starts becoming the blessing that it was meant to be. I think about this, I've been thinking about this week. Like, I can't believe how many people I know and I've known for years trust the media more than they trust me. It's corny, it's whack, it's deceptive, it's so immature. You believe the media over me? I'm talking about hypopia. We're talking about hip hop. We're talking about a wholly integrated people having omnipresent power. That's our trajectory. Can you not see that for yourself? The media, the news, nobody's going to tell you that you are great. Nobody's going to tell you what your divine heritage is. Nobody's going to call you your nobility. No, they want you to bow down to them all the time. And you believe them over you believe me? Come on. For real. But that's the burden of being the minister. That's the burden of what we're carrying right now. But this burden's turning into a blessing. Come on, hypopia, wake up. Hypopia, wake up to hypopia. Hypopia, wake up to yourself. Wake up to who you are. Wake up to your God immediately. You believe the media over God? Do you believe the media over God? Do you believe the government is more powerful than your God? Why do you submit to them? God is more powerful than all of them. And not on some military power. No, power, real power, energetic, vibrational frequency power that changes environments without ever firing a shot, without ever throwing a punch. Sometimes that might have to happen, might have to throw a punch. But really, it's the day-to-day trajectory and the way we work our mind and the way we work our body and the way we put our spirit or allow our spirit to work through us, which is really God's spirit. We are in God and God is in us. It's one, it's the same thing happening, going on daily. You're a current, you're a direct current of God. You're a transmitter of God and God's energy. Wake up to that. Quit falling asleep, man. They're trying to put you to sleep with the media and with the chemicals and with the addictions and with the debauchery that they're selling everybody and with the lies they're selling everybody every day. The oppressor lost. The New World Order lost. Like they lost. They're not going to tell you they lost. They're just going to keep, if you're going to keep believing they're winning, they're going to keep telling you they're winning. You keep thinking the colonizer is winning, they're going to keep telling you they're winning. That's what a narcissist does. A narcissist can't tell the truth. The government can't tell the truth. The media can't tell the truth. They're just going to keep lying. And as long as people buy that BS and believe it, they're going to keep doing it. But the truth is, they lost. They're not going to tell you they lost, but they lost. They lost. There's going to be all this evidence. You're going to look, no, they won. People are dying. All this crazy science and COVID and the jab and all this, they won. And man, it looks crazy because a lot of people fell for the lie. A lot of people fell for the lie of McDonald's and for the lie of all of their lie. They fell for that. But the truth is that there are millions of people who didn't believe the lie. There's millions of us, billions of us. And we're vibrating at a higher rate of truth, but we got to wake up to that truth and wake up that that's what we believe and quit being afraid of the big bad wolf. Quit being afraid of, the man behind the mirrors. The Wizard of Oz, the little guy behind the thing causing all this smoke and mirrors trying to make everybody afraid. They're so fake. I don't care what this G7 summit is doing. They're fake. They're liars. It's all a stage show. It's all theatrics. They are lost. They lied and they lost. We won. We have a gospel of hip hop. We've got the tree of life technology. We've got one another. We've got God. We've won it all. All of it. We won. But if we don't believe we won, then we're going to walk around and the trajectory is going to be the lie, and we're going to land at the lie and lose because we believe the lie. No, my nobility, believe the truth. The truth of God is within you. It's alive. It's a living vibration and frequency, and it cancels out all other vibrations and frequencies as it vibrates higher and higher. But when the spirit starts vibrating, the mind got to keep up. And when the mind starts vibrating with the spirit, the body's got to keep up. It's got to work as one wholeness. Get into your discipline. Take yourself seriously. There's no time to waste on BS and sickness and hatred and ignorance and poverty. No, it's health, love, awareness, and wealth. That's the trajectory. Let's read from the Gospel of Hip Hop in closing. And, this is really important here. Gospel of Hip Hop, the sixth overstanding. Let's see, what are we at? The sixth overstanding, and we are on page. All right, in closing, let's read from the Gospel of Hip Hop, the sixth overstanding, the seasons. And this will bring it all to a closing. We're going to get more into the spiritual as well and the spiritual trajectory. But go ahead and turn to page 325. We're going to be reading pages 325 to 326, paragraphs 52 to 58 in the Gospel of Hip Hop, written by the teacher, KRS-One. And just as a reminder, I'm a recognized intellectual and spiritual contributor in the Gospel of Hip Hop. That's how I can teach from this book, and that's why I teach from this book. I've lived from this book. And all the miracles that I experienced in my life, this was the trajectory that I set myself on. And God set me on as well, and I got in that flow and that vibrational frequency, and I experienced miracles every day in my life. Let's read. Know this: an uncontrollable, imperfect mind is a prison for the true hip-hopper. For if you cannot direct your own mind and body beyond your own temptations, fears, and doubts, then it is obvious that you are led not by what you desire for yourself, but by what your mind and body crave for themselves. You are their slave. This is why you cannot seem to get anything done for yourself. In spirit, you must finally make up your mind, create and build your own mind state. It is you, spirit, that must order your mind and body to think and move toward your success. Otherwise, they will think and move toward the fulfillment of their own success, which is your spiritual failure. Right along with the knowing of oneself, even the creation of oneself, is the true directing of oneself. Once your tempting desires and cravings no longer have a hold on you, you can properly direct yourself. And remember this. I just want to say this. Just take a moment. Remember, when tempting moments arise, be still and do nothing and allow the tempting moment to pass. When temptation arrives, be still and do nothing and allow the tempting moment to pass, physically or mentally. That's the power of spirit directing the mind and the body. When a tempting moment arrives and the food that is sitting right in front of you, that cake that you're supposed to say no to because you're watching out for your weight, or you're watching out for your blood sugar level, or you're just looking out for your health, that tempting moment, that cake, it's going to arrive. And when that cake arrives, be still and do nothing. Don't eat the cake. Don't think about the cake. Don't drool over the cake. Don't stare at the cake. Just be still and do nothing, and eventually that craving, that temptation will pass. When doubt enters your mind, when doubt comes because you say, I'm on trajectory and this is my purpose in life, and this doubt arises, no, it's not, you can't get there, oh, it's too hard, and all this doubt comes, just be still and do nothing. Don't act upon the doubt, and it will eventually pass. Be still and do nothing, and allow the tempting moment to pass. The physical temptation or the mental temptation, that's the power of spirit, which is you, that we're talking about here. This is how we direct ourselves. And what are we directing? We're directing our current. We're transmitting ourselves on a certain course of action, a certain trajectory. For it is the will to direct yourself, even in the most confusing and uncomfortable situations, that proves your spiritual maturity. In fact, the ability to actually direct one's thoughts and actions above the cravings of the flesh is a skill that every true hip-hopper growing along a spiritual path must attain. So if you consider yourself a true hip-hopper, you've got to get your spirit moving your mind and your body in the right direction. Direct yourself. Get your mind and your body going in the right direction. If you consider yourself a true hip-hopper, you got to direct your mind and your body. Your spirit has to direct the mind and the body to its success, to its fulfillment, towards its purpose. Make the right choice. This is why many people feel stagnated. This is why many people feel stagnated in their lives, even with success. Most of the time, it is because they either lost the ability to direct themselves or they never had the ability to direct themselves. They've become slaves to their situations. Whenever they think of something that they would like to do for themselves, it is always their own uncontrollable fears, doubts, cravings, temptations, and other immaturities that prevent them from achieving that which they say they want for themselves. In this case, some will say, I want X. And notice the X here. That's why I chose this. And I know I read this a few weeks ago. I'm just reading the same thing that we read about a month ago. But see that X? X marks the spot. That's the target. Okay? That's what we're aiming for. That's what we want our trajectory of ourselves, of our thoughts, of our intentions, of our body, of our spirit. That X marks the spot. That's why I'm reading this again. So in this case, someone will say, I want X, which is the target, which is the mark, which is what they want to hit. But I'm too afraid to do what it takes to achieve X. Or they will say, I want X, but deep down in their very being, they really don't believe that they deserve X or can actually achieve X. Here it is fear and or doubt that is not only stagnating one's life, but this same fear and or doubt is actually guiding one's life. Such a person is not led by his will to achieve X, his purpose. Such a person is led, guided, and directed by fear and or doubt. The cure is to direct yourself beyond your fears and or doubts with awareness. Being self-directed is the beginning of peace and prosperity. And this skill begins with taking yourself seriously. This means to finally make the decision to be that which you say you are. Whatever that is, be it now. Bloom where you are planted. Love yourself. Don't wait for the best opportunity or some favorable situation to arrive before you actually begin the process of self-transformation. Grow from what you already know. Practice the control of your emotions, sadness, anger, and even happiness when you are confronted by selfish, depressed, and or angered people. Begin today to seize control of the environment in which you live and the mind in which you have. Do not allow the environment, people's attitudes, or the cravings of your mind to move you exclusively. At this very moment, make the decision to begin moving them. That is so deep. That is so deep, my nobility. Many people say they want X, they want to hit the mark, they want to hit the target. But they believe what other people are saying, and they doubt themselves, and they doubt their God, and they doubt their abilities, and then they can't see X, and they just doubt that they can ever hit the mark of X, and so they don't even try. They don't even try, and they give up. And is that hypopia? Like the purpose of hypopia? Like our collective purpose? What is our trajectory when we're speaking as collectively as our purpose? If our purpose is hypopia, we got to know that we can hit that mark and we're capable of it. Doesn't matter what the outside circumstances are saying. Doesn't matter what your family's saying or your friends are saying or your partner's saying or the media's saying or the government's saying or what history's saying. Doesn't matter what any of that doubt is saying. See the mark. See the target. Get that trajectory right and see yourself there. And it may take 4, 5, 10, 20, 100 steps, but see yourself there. Get up now from where you are, grow from where you're planted, and get to the promised land, my nobility. The promised land is your purpose. What's your trajectory? Your purpose, the promised land. What's our trajectory? Our purpose, the promised land, hypopia. We got to get there. And I don't care what people are saying around you. I mean, I care because you've got to, what I care about is that you know. What I care about is that you know that your own empowerment and your own abilities can be so focused on the goal, can be so focused on the target, can be so focused on that mark that you will hit it. And you will hit it every time. And it doesn't matter. Get that focus going. And cancel out all that noise. Cancel out all that extra stuff trying to get at you. And we start wooing out. And then we just walk in our field. We walk in our vibrational field. And we arrive at the promised land because the promised land has arrived in us first. It goes from the spirit to the physical. It's already there in the spirit. Match its frequency and its vibration and it will appear in the world. What is your purpose in life? Is it to MC? Is it to write a book? Is it to make jewelry? Is it to heal people? Is it to make clothing and fashion? Is it all of them? What is your purpose in life? Do you see yourself there? Vibrate with your purpose. Vibrate with the universe's purpose for you. God's purpose for you. You vibrate with that frequency and you will arrive where you are destined to arrive. That's your vibrational trajectory. Vibrational trajectory. Where's our vibration taking us? What is our frequency doing? We are the sound of God. Or we're the sound of demented unknowing, ignorance, and all those things that we've already experienced, and we've had enough of the experience to know we're not that anymore. And we never really were that. We experienced that so we know who we really are. I experienced what I was not so I can experience who I am. I experienced who I wasn't to experience who I am. And I know this because for me to stand here and speak like this, I had to go through a lot of self-doubt, a lot of doubt from people around me. I had to go through a lot of hardship. I had to go through it. It was muddy. It was dirty. It was ugly. It was grimy. It was painful. It was dark. It wasn't fun. But here I am, sprouted up through the ground, my own tree of life. Here I am, and I can say this with confidence. And I can say no matter where you're at in life, grow from where you are planted like the gospel just taught, and grow into who you know you already are. Believe me over the media. Believe me over the lies your school system are telling you, the lies the CIA is telling you, the lies the government is telling you. Believe me over that. Believe God over that. Don't even believe me. Believe God, but God's speaking through me because God spoke to me and I felt that word and I had to vibrate with that word. It's real like that. I'm not ashamed of that. Don't be ashamed of who you are. Don't be ashamed of your past. Learn from your past. What did Malcolm X say? To have once been a criminal is no disgrace. To remain a criminal is a disgrace. To have once been a criminal is no disgrace. To remain a criminal is a disgrace. To once have sinned, it's not a disgrace, but to remain in that sin is a disgrace. Don't remain in that sin, that selfish, inconsiderate need. Don't remain on that path of always missing the mark. You missed the mark, so you learn how to hit the mark. But if you remain in that, it's just disgraceful. If you remain who you always were, it's a disgrace. Rise up, my nobility. Become who we were destined to become. What is your trajectory? What is our trajectory? God is with us. God is with us on every step of the way. Magical people, magical amulets, magical vibrational clothing, magical vibrational thinking, magical vibrational spirit. And it's not even magic. It's just vibrational being. It's actually reality. It's actually who we truly are. It's God's technology. You are God's technology. This body is God's technology. Let God run the technology. Let God move through. God is in you as you are in God. God is in us as we are in God. We match that vibrational frequency and we are just a walking miracle. Miracles come into our lives and we are a miracle coming into other people's lives. We are the promised land. You are the promised land. You are Hip-Hopia. Peace and so much love to you, my nobility, as you go forward this week. Go forward with your chest out and your head held high. I am somebody. Go out in your week and create the you that you always knew you were. Be who you know you are. Do those things that you know you are supposed to do. Direct your mind and body to the fulfillment of your spirit. And there it is. Here!